Good evening. It is Tuesday, March 19th, and we are the ISD 709 Duluth Public Schools regular school board meeting. We are meeting once a month, and this is a formal meeting where we take action, vote on different resolutions and different contracts, ask questions, hear presentations from our superintendent and our student school board reps, along with any input from our leaders or any questions from school board members. Again, this is ISD 709 Duluth Public Schools. It's our regular school board meeting, and Clerk Zambowski will take roll.
Member Banks.
Here.
Member Dirk Eater.
Present.
Member Loeffler-Kemp. Here. Member Lowfald.
Here.
Member Mikesell is excused. I am here. And Member Williams. Here. Superintendent Magus.
Here.
Assistant Superintendent Bonds. Present. Deputy Clerk Zunich. Here. Executive Director of HR Severance.
Present.
Board Secretary Paquette. And our student school board representatives, Damon Ritzko.
Here.
Larissa Miller.
Here.
And Mia Petronas.
Here.
Thank you. We'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm looking for any agenda items that we might need to place, or is there any questions on the agenda that we've been presented since last week? If not, I'm going to look for a motion to approve the agenda tonight.
So move.
We have Member Eater with a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second? Member Williams seconds it, and again, if there is no additions, the agenda will be approved by our vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. We do have an agenda. Thank you. So our first notice on our agenda is number 5, and it's school and community recognition, and I'll call on Assistant Superintendent Bonds. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Chair, and good evening, Board and community. I am pleased to recognize tonight Cindy Miller. Cindy Miller is the Library Media Specialist at Congdon Elementary School and the district's Computer Science Lead. This year, Cindy applied for and was awarded a $10,000 grant to promote equitable and inclusive pathways in computer science through the Infy Makers Awards contest sponsored by Infosys Foundation USA. The funds will be used to build maker spaces in our elementary schools, media centers, provide tech tools for middle schools, and to develop a Sympathy, which is a STEM event. Cindy Miller is also and has gone above and beyond this year, testifying, that you heard earlier today, at the state capitol on legislation that could potentially protect schools and libraries from outside groups that seek to remove books from libraries based on opposing viewpoints or messages, ideas, or opinions the books convey. We are so thankful for Cindy, for her passion for our students and our school libraries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm going to present that to her as well as, of course, ours as well. So congratulations. We're going to take a photo in a moment, but I know Cindy does want to share some information. So Cindy.
Okay, thanks. Thank you for the acknowledgement and the opportunity to tell you about the Infy Maker Awards grant that I brought to our school district. Can you hear me okay in the microphone? The Infy Makers Awards contest by Infosys Foundation USA is open to educators from K-12 schools, universities, colleges, libraries, museums, maker spaces, and youth-serving nonprofit organizations using maker education to promote equitable and inclusive pathways for K-12 plus students in computer science. 10 winning educators from across the country received a $10,000 grant and the opportunity to participate in the Making Computer Science Inclusive Cohort, a professional learning experience facilitated by Digital Promise from January to August 2024. The grant is flexible funding that can be used for materials, projects, research, community engagement, and more. My winning project has 3 parts. First, I want to build maker spaces in the library media centers in all of our elementary schools, including the treatment and residential schools. In the makerspace, students learn soft skills like collaboration, perseverance, and communication, and they use inquiry and creativity. They design, tinker, create, and improve their prototypes. I've already made great progress in planning inclusive and equitable lessons. I've ordered and organized supplies like magnetiles, glue, markers, and snap circuits, and I'm designing the PD for our elementary library media specialists. The second part of the project is for middle school. When I wrote this grant application, I have to be able to look at you at this part. When I wrote this grant application, our new and reworked middle school courses were not on my radar. I wrote the grant to include just a few tools for short exploratory courses. I will carry through with my commitments of this grant, but funding will be needed for the complete courses that are now being offered. Okay, we'll talk about that on another day. The third part of the project is one I'm really excited about. I'm going to arrange a STEMpathy event in Duluth Public Schools. I will build connections with professionals in the city who use STEM, that's science, technology, engineering, and math in their careers, and organize an event where elementary and middle school students can get real-life view of how people use STEM skills in their careers. We'll use a science fair booth format. Students in small groups will visit a booth and learn from an adult for 8 minutes or so each, and then rotate to another and learn more. Invited to this event will be people from the healthcare industry, civil and chemical engineers, land surveyors, branches of the military, transportation and logistics professionals, and people who work in the hospitality and beauty service industries. I hope to spur student interest in STEM and the CTE courses that we offer in Duluth Public Schools and foster connections to professionals to further our CTE pathways. Thanks again for acknowledging my Infy Makers Award. Oh, Jill, you're coming up here. Thanks for acknowledging my Infy Makers Award grant and allowing me to use the mic to tell you about it tonight. I'll be in touch with more information about what we need for our middle school computer science courses. Wink at Jill. Thank you. And a picture.
Would you like to take questions first and then come up for a quick picture? Any feedback first? How about that? And then take a pictures. Yep. I don't have my glasses, so.
Clerk Kim.
I just want to, I've known Cindy for years and years, and she has done so much for this district in so many ways, but I just appreciate the fact that you took the time to write a grant, which is hard enough often, and that you really looked at a broad scope, across the district scope in wanting to use the funds. And so just, again, applaud you, respect you tremendously. Thank you.
Member Eater.
I just would echo everything that Rosie said. I think that about this $10,000 grant that you're bringing back to the district and the dividends for our district and our kids and the education and professional development for our teachers will far outweigh that $10,000. It will do so much for us and so much for our kids. And just showing younger teachers out there to go for those grants, to do those things, to spread their passion and love and knowledge. And I really appreciate it. And I can just tell from watching you how passionate, how engaging, and what a gift you are to the district. So thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent Magus.
Sure, and I'd reiterate much of what's been said already. I could go on in greater detail, but one thing, when you came up to the podium, one thing I think about is how often I see you. You're in so many different leadership roles, and you're so present, and you're so positive, and you're always focused on what's best for kids and what's best for our schools. And I think you're just an incredible role model to others, and I just want to say how much I'm deeply grateful for your work.
Thank you.
And I'll just conclude, like, this is a drop the mic moment. That's what we call it when we just are incredibly, like it can't be beat. We just drop the mic here.
Thanks. Whoever wants to be in the picture with me, come over. Where do you want us?
Where do you want to stay?
And again, after spending some days down at the Capitol ourselves, lobbying and speaking, Cindy, I'm really glad you're there, and the handout you brought as well. And I have talked with Senator Kunich, who's, quite involved as the financial chair, but also, she's a retired librarian, so she's passionate. And so I can imagine when you come with your background, your experience, and what you can do with money, she's going to open up a little bit more. So we'll talk. So next on our agenda board is the reports of the superintendent, and under those are the reports from our student school board reps. It's also our superintendent's report, and then just a review of some upcoming schedules of meetings and events. I'll turn it over to Superintendent Magus.
Thank you, and I'm just casting here a moment. One second. So thank you, and again, for our superintendent's report, we have a few things to cover, but we always start with taking a look at our mission, vision, and values, and this is something we worked on very hard over the course of the past few years. And I'll read our mission, vision, and just the titles of our core values. Our mission is that every student, every day, will be empowered with learning opportunities for growth, creativity, and curiosity in preparation for their future and a global community. And our vision is that Duluth Public Schools provides an academically engaging, safe, and inclusive environment with high expectations and responsible use of resources. And our core values are learning, excellence, equity, collaboration, and belonging. And we're really grateful for all the work that's been done to put together a strategic plan as well as our desired daily outcomes. It's given us a great deal of focus as we move forward. Tonight, as was mentioned already, we have our student reports, then a little piece on negotiations, some budget updates, some information on our referendum, as well as some legislative advocacy, and then opportunity for other if there are any questions. So let's start tonight with our student reports, and I'm not sure who would like to go first tonight.
I'd love to go first, but I'm not done yet, so.
I can go first today.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
First off, I'd like to say that our robotics team, DNA, number 4009, is headed to Denver this weekend to compete in the first regional competition there. And then I'd like to say congratulations to the Denfeld speech team as they continue to compete, perform, and succeed over the past few weeks. The team has captured the first place trophy in the category at Princeton, the third place team trophy at Forest Lake, and many team members received members for the top finishes. Senior Jackson Cheddarquest has captured 2 championships medals in poetry in the past 2 weeks. Junior Reagan Kern had captured 4 championship medals in drama in separate tournaments. Junior Maria Opiet has medaled as and has been on top 3 the past 2 tournaments in discussion. Sophomores Nisa Johnson and Natalie Anderson also continue to win top medals at every tournament. And last Saturday at our national qualifying tournament, junior Reagan Kern took first in drama and will be advancing to the national speech tournament in June in Iowa. And our team continues to show up at every tournament on Saturdays since January 13th and shares their voices and represents Denfeld Hunter's spirit. Our boys basketball and girls were in playoffs this month, and they ended the year with motivation for the next year. So congratulations to all of our seniors. Students are taking a trip to Costa Rica through the Spanish education, and then there was an auction through that, and the fundraising closed on Monday, March 18th. Inside the school, bar students of the week is Santonio A, Faith B, Samantha M, Hewitt N, and Isabel F. I times for students in 9th grade and 10th grades and juniors and seniors are doing self-expanding social emotional lessons each week. 8th grade orientation was on Tuesday, March 5th, and was well attended. Lots of information was shared. The event was shortened to the presidential primary election in Minnesota, so that was a little pushback there. 9th grade bingo on Fridays during WIN, and it's being sponsored by Link Crew, so that'll be every Friday now. Sophomore field trip was on March 13th to construct tomorrow at the deck or field trip to Long du Lac Tribal and Community College. I've heard lots of good feedback. Students versus basketball game, March 1st. The students won, and everyone had a lot of fun. It was very interesting. ACT signups to prepare for the test was on March 11th. Our counselor had everyone get together that already signed up so they can prepare. Junior night was today, March 19th, 5 to 6:30 p.m. College counselors for the next steps and admissions were there. March 27th, field trip to Lake Superior College for juniors and seniors. Registration ends on 22nd. Bus expectations are being reviewed this week for 9th and 10th graders and those in special education. Moving on to more of clubs things. BSA is going to do a pottery night monthly, which is very exciting. We had a lot of success for the first one, so that will be something that we're looking forward to. Officer elections are Wednesday during WIN. Women's History Month dress-up days. We have a spirit week for that. So Monday is Like a Girl, Jersey Day. Tuesday, Women Are Superheroes, Superhero Day. On Wednesday, wear pink. Thursday, A Day in Her Shoes, wear the shoes of a woman you love. Friday, feminism is for everyone. Class color day, so freshman is purple, sophomore is white, junior is gold, and senior is green, and then staff is gray. And then some updates with Dash. Dash is an after-school program. They are doing so much things. So they have a Changemakers Day on March 28th, and then they'll have twice in April where UWS is going to go to Denfeld. It's 4 to 5 p.m. Everyone is invited, and it lifts up students' youth voices and hands-on experience exploring issues today, including workshops and exploring solutions. Students and staff from the college will be involved, so it'll also be the students from the college in that major. Book genre, speed dating. The Dashboard had a youth leadership team in the Duluth Public Library on March 6th for the event in the West Commons from 3:30 to 5:30. And they basically had speed dating with different genres, which I've heard great feedback. They plan to do that more often. The Dashboard is talking about activities for the Summer Transition Academy, which is being planned. They're thinking rock climbing, archery, and some really fun activities to get outside. Golds is planning a crunch time on March 27th, Wednesday, for the end of the quarter, and asking for some more volunteers from Link Crew and NHS for tutoring. Hunter's license, some updates on that. Students 15 and younger have to be passing their classes, but those who are 16 and over have to be on track to graduate or enrolled in credit recovery to attend home games. And then the drama club, they'll be bringing a few people for what the Constitution means for me on Thursday. I will be performing, so you guys are all invited. It's free. So that's exciting that some Denfeld students are going. And then there's also going to be a culture night at Lowell. There's like a little field trip for Denfeld students to go there and attend and to help volunteer. Update for bathrooms. The feedback from kids is that hygiene products are not being as stocked as usual. I talked to Mr. Tuskin. He's kind of emailed the engineering, but I'm just taking that out there that it hasn't been stocked every single time when a student has walked in, which is a problem. And then an update with the bathrooms for monitoring, staff monitoring bathrooms to like ensure safe and accessible. They take students' first names and make sure that the bathroom is not over capacity. So basically they sit in front of the bathrooms, and then when they walk out, they cross their name out. From feedback, it's been pros and cons. I would say the accessibility for like not having all the bathrooms, especially being late, but so far it's been helpful for having less distractions in the bathroom. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Miller. And who would like to go next? Student
I
Representative
can go
Petronis,
next,
looks like
if
you.
that's
Go ahead.
okay. All right, so some updates on East High School. Last week was our Red and Gray Spirit Week, and this year's theme was Shark Week. So we decorated the school accordingly, and we had an after-school basketball intramural, which we called Shark Madness. Over 100 students played, and there was even a group of teachers that competed. The last two remaining teams got to play their final game at our assembly on Friday for all of the school to watch. And also at that assembly, 3 students who were voted on by the student body were crowned to be top dogs. East has recently installed a new safety measure inside of our school. The building has 2 sets of glass doors in our entryway, and the one that opens onto the cafeteria has been covered with our school logo. So this prevents anyone from seeing into the school, but also allows people to see out. Not only is it a nice branding visual, it is a really important safety piece. Sophomores, they took their annual trip to the deck for Construct Tomorrow, where they got to experience hands-on activities based around the trades. 10 students from the math team went to state last week, and they placed 17th out of 162 teams. The Drama Club has begun rehearsing for this year's spring production, which is a musical called the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. It will be performing the second weekend in May. I get to be part of it, so I think it'll be a very fun time. The track season has also started, and tryouts for softball, cheerleading, boys tennis, and baseball are all coming up within the next 2 weeks. All 8th through 11th grade students have registered for next year's classes. Many students have given feedback that teachers' explanations of courses as well as the course handbook have set them up for a very successful signing up of classes. A representative from East Key Club, Azalea Steffes, is attending a Key Club conference in North Dakota to learn more about leadership and how to make improvements on our Key Club organization in our school. Promcom just announced this year's prom theme, which is A Night Under the Stars, which will take place May 4th at the deck. During WIN, there have been many tutoring opportunities that have been made available for students. Next Thursday, the Advanced A Cappella Choir is hosting a talent show at Ordine Middle School. There are various music and dance programs that showcase some really extremely talented students at East. And that is all I have for this month. Thank you.
Thank you, Student Representative Petronis. And then now we are on with Student Representative Risco.
I have a slideshow again, so. Where'd she go? She poofed.
One second. I think she might have.
Oh, she's over there.
So she's working that out. One moment. And the anticipation is building.
All right, 21 slides and 10 pages later, here we are. Hello, everyone. I'm Damon Ritzko, and this is my monthly report for March. March was a very exciting month for the ALC. Since February 29th, the ALC has gone on 4 field trips within the span of 9 days. We may not have sports, but the ALC is infamous for our field trips. On Wednesday, March 6, 2024, the ALC went on an all-day field trip to 3 separate places throughout the day. The first place we went was Northwood Technical College in Superior, Wisconsin for a college tour, where we went all over the building looking and discussing the multitude of careers that are available to be achieved at NTC. The machine tool class was about working with coding to help manufacture parts. With the automatic machines, as seen on the top, middle, and right pictures, for students learn coding and put that coding to use by making actual parts for all types of things, such as parts for making the machines that were making the parts in the first place, car parts, and even just screws to put your bed frame together. The list goes on. Students that attend this class will gain the basic skills necessary for safely operate machine tool equipment at the beginning and intermediate levels. Through group lectures and demonstrations, they will learn safety, setups, proper feeds, and speeds of machine tool equipment. An advanced lab opportunity is available for students demonstrating competency in safe operation of machines. The beginning level class is Machine Tool Operation 1, which is a 4-year class, and the intermediate level is Machine Tool Operation 2, which is a 2-year class. There are many other options that fall under the machinery umbrella, but this one specifically was covered during our tour of the college. During our tour, we were brought all around the building and saw all of the beautiful architecture, I know what I'm saying, and how homey and inviting the building and the surroundings felt. The inside of the building really did feel like a warm, cozy place to study, and some of the structures were absolute masterpieces. Nursing classes. First off, those are actual mannequins that the students use in place of actual people. Okay, now that's out of the way. The nursing course has many, many options, not just working with people directly. One can become a nurse. Anyone can become a nurse, and there are courses that span anywhere from within 1 year to 6 years. The options are limitless, like working in a nursing home, don't know why you want to do that, but to being a pharmacist, a veteran, a veterinarian, someone who works alongside hospice, or just a regular store-bought nurse. For those of you out of the loop, cosmetology isn't the study of comments, shocker. It's the study of hair and nail care. Have you ever gone out to get your hair cut or gone to get your nails done? Those are cosmetologists. Here, there are courses that range from half a year to 5 years, depending on how devoted you are to the career. On the left is Anna Callan, and on the right is Katie Flug. They were our tour guides for this trip and were incredibly helpful in answering questions that were incredibly kind to all of us during our duration at Northwood. I wanted to give both of them a shout out because they both did an incredible job showing us around, and they were truly the backbone of this whole trip. After that, we ate lunch there, we said our goodbyes, and went to our next destination of the day. World of Wheels is a place in Superior that is a roller skate / rollerblade rink. We were there for about an hour and everyone had lots of fun and was just enjoying themselves. I myself brought my own rollerblades and the whole experience was enjoyable as a whole. the last place we visited was a career fair that was being held a few blocks away from our school building. These careers focused on some trade careers, such as construction and electrical companies, but the majority of the careers that were being promoted were careers that you'd most likely have to go to college for, and careers that you'd have to be there for the next 10 years, 10 plus years. There's about one job there that could be considered a summer job. It was a grocery store, I believe. But other than that, there weren't many short-time jobs that could get you by in the meantime. But I'm sure that they got some employees, but I personally thought it was a bit of a waste. After that, it was about 3:30 p.m., and that's how we wrapped up our day. On Tuesday, March 12th, 2024, the entirety of the ALC went to the deck in Canal Park to go to this career fair. Again, another career fair will be completely focused on the trades. There was heavy equipment operation, electricians, bricklayers, architects, you name it, it was there. What the career fair was about. The career fair was about bringing people to the attention of these many, many careers that are out there. 80% of the trade careers don't need anything higher than a high school diploma to get you to get the job. The other 20% do require some type of higher education, but most of those jobs have programs so you get paid to learn how to do the job. The actual careers that I could get on camera were plumbers, pipe lifters, and steam lifters, limited energy, electrical, iron workers, and metal sheet workers. These careers, at least the majority of them, are hard manual labor jobs that obviously not many people are going to want to go into. That's a part of the reason why they pay so well. Jobs like these can accumulate up to and over 6 figures a year. In some jobs, it's actually closer to 7 even. We spent about an hour to an hour and a half there before we went back to resume our regular school day. On Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, select students from East Denfeld and the ALC were invited to take part in the 2024 Youth Summit in St. Paul, Minnesota, near the Capitol building. The Youth Summit is where LGBTQ+ youth can gather together and share their experiences, meet potential new friends, and join the community together in one place. This year, over 400 students from schools across the state gathered together. It was a little chaotic, I'm not gonna lie, but it was 100% worth only getting 3 hours of sleep to be there. So as you can see that the event technically started at 8 a.m., we selected East Denfeld and ALC students actually departed from Duluth a little after 8 and didn't get there until just before the Affinity Spaces block was about to begin, sometime between 10:20 to 10:35. Due to the bus company screwing up the order for the bus that was supposed to take us down there. They thought that the staff had scheduled for Thursday the 14th instead of Wednesday the 13th. We were supposed to leave at 6:30 in the morning, but had an hour and a half late start to the day. I'm aware that the text is small, so I'll read what the text says starting from the top left in the box. We are excited to introduce Affinity Spaces this year. These sessions will run between Workshop Block 1 and lunch from 10:35 a.m. to 11:15 a.m. Affinity Spaces are a place for those with specific identities to share experiences, stories, and support. Affinity Spaces are not open to those that do not identify with their titles. If you do not hold any of these identities listed, you are always welcome into the ally and/or questioning space. Moving over to the right, these are the titles of the different affinity spaces provided. Experiences of rural queer youth, sharing ACE and ARO stories, queer young people of faith affinity space, queer, bisexual, and middle sexualities, living in larger bodies, Latin affinity spaces, and then it says it again in Spanish, Hmong and Southeast Asian LGBTQ+ youth, trans/gender expansive affinity space, the Black LGBTQ+ affinity space, disability and neurodivergence affinity space, and finally, ally and/or questioning affinity space. I chose the queer, bisexual, and middle sexualities affinity spaces to go to, and this is the description of what the space was about. The queer, bisexual, and middle-sexualities affinity space is open to all participants who identify as pansexual, bisexual, queer, omnisexual, polysexual, or multisexual of any kind. This will be a chance to share our community's pride, joys, and successes, while also holding space to commemorate over the erasure, discrimination, and unique challenges we face. The presenter for this affinity space is Anna L., as seen in the picture, who goes by she, they pronouns and is a Minneapolis-St. Paul parent and Outfront Minnesota volunteer. Lunch ran from 11:15 a.m. to 12 p.m. and from 12:15 p.m. to 1:05 p.m. was the workshop block 2. I don't have information about what the workshop blocks were totally about, but here are the events that took place during this time. Queer Dungeons and Dragons, or D&D, Tell Your Story, Queer Sex Ed, Gendered Transition for Teens Q&A, Therapeutic Art Making and Journaling, Healthy LGBTQIA Relationships, Trans and Intersex Solidarity 101, Let's Talk About Gender Identity, Yes and Connection, improv exercises to get to know each other, and lastly, LGBTQ+ inclusive schools, advocacy, and self-care. I personally went to the Healthy LGBTQIA+ relationships, mainly because I have a girlfriend who is a trans woman who sadly couldn't attend the summit. And even though we have a very strong bond, I wanted to know if there was anything else that we could do to make our strong bond stronger. Here's the description for this workshop. We all deserve healthy relationships, whether they're romantic or platonic. Join my health educators for this activity-filled relationships workshop to reflect on what is important to us in healthy queer relationships. Learn more about how unhealthy relationships can impact the queer community and practice healthy communication and boundary setting skills. The presenter for this workshop is Nicole Lewandowski, I believe, who goes by any all pronouns and is a My Health for Teens and Young Adults educator. At 1:15 p.m. to 2 p.m., we were given a closing performance by a local music artist, Sim1. Sim1 is a local artist who is based in Minnesota and calls the state a home. During this performance, we listened to 6 of her songs, played live with backup dancers and even a small smoke machine. It truly was an amazing way to end the day. And she is one of my new favorite artists. My personal favorite song from her is Meet Me Online, MMO, and would 100% recommend listening to that song. Their Instagram, TikTok, and their website are there if you ever want to check them out on one of their many platforms. Now here's the description of her and her music. Unsubscribed from reality as we know it, Sim1 is a vocalist, producer, and performer using Eurodance, hyperpop, and alternative aesthetics to inspire a renaissance of early 2000s rave culture. And that is how we ended the day. On Thursday, March 14th, 2024, this day is known as Pi Day because it's 314. 3.14. Haha, funny math joke. Due to this day, my math teacher, Mrs. Jane Jutine, bought 20 pies, some being pumpkin, cherry, blueberry, and apple. These pies were free for students all day long and to take as much as they'd like. I personally took 2 slices of pumpkin pie, and that was enough for me. To round off the day, from 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m., the students and staff were welcome to a free hour of bowling, pizza, and fun. Above are some pictures I took while we were there, and it's clear that even though not everyone was good at it, everyone was indeed having fun. Now, how did I do? I got 15 gutter balls. Yeah, I had about 28 points by the end. Fun times. Conclusion, Thank you for sitting through this very long presentation. I'll be answering any questions you may have after the meeting is officially adjourned.
Thank you so much to our student representatives for very robust presentations. I think it's really great to get a glimpse into the lives of all of our students in all of our high schools. And I'll just cast back up here, one sec. So again, I mentioned that we have a few other topics to cover. And first one is negotiations. We're very pleased to bring forward, as we heard in our listening session, two, not just one, but two-year contracts, which we've negotiated with the Duluth, little typo there, Duluth Federations of Teachers. This agreement marks significant investments in the district's commitment to educational excellence, ensuring that teachers are recognized for their invaluable contributions to shaping future generations. So this teacher contract will involve a 6% increase for the first year, followed by 3% in the second year. And the second contract includes 2% raises in each of the subsequent years from 2025 to 2027. We're also continuing our director and individual contract negotiations, but I'm very thrilled about this new teacher contract that we have. As I mentioned, and as we've heard before, it really is focused on honoring our teachers, to really think about the pay issues that we have, to make sure that teaching is an attractive position. It's important for retention as well. There's a lot of research out there that shows that if you lose a teacher, on average, with the amount of cost to hire a new teacher and train them up, it's about $20,000. So we think it's important to invest that money rather than hiring and rehiring people as we go, to recognize our great teachers that we have and put it into salary increases. We also recognize that there have been some changes with our contract language to allow for changes in our elementary, middle school, and high school schedules. And I think this is really historic, too, to make sure that we have a high-quality program, even better than what we've had before, but spanning from kindergarten through graduation. These programs will all be enhanced and changed for years to come. So very, very proud of the work that's been done. I'm also very pleased with the labor management relationship that we have. I think that it's been very, very positive. We were able to negotiate, and I think when we've heard about negotiations around the state, or we've looked at some of the past negotiations, it was a very, very positive experience. And I think that it was one where we all looked at what are our mutual objectives and how can we obtain them. We also are talking a little bit about the legislative platform and advocacy. We have worked really hard on our advocacy with the 2024 legislative platform at Duluth and St. Louis County Days, as well as the MSBA and MASA Day at the Capitol. That was just yesterday, and we had attendance there from two of our board members, from Member Loeffler Kemp and Chair Lofold. And again, the priorities of our legislative platform focus on increasing the funding formula, REDAC funding, permanent funding for unemployment insurance and school meals, increasing resources for cybersecurity, safety, career and technical education, special education, and solar projects. We're also seeking greater flexibility with operating levies and long-term facilities maintenance. So those are the things that we're focused on, and it's really important for us to continue to get the message out there. We have heard from many that the budget will be tighter with legislation this time than we were maybe hoping for, so there isn't likely vast or even really significant increases in those appropriations. I know we have a special piece related to special education funding for Duluth to retroactively reimburse us for $1 million of the $6 million that was lost due to a funding anomaly. We did hear from the governor's office this week that that was not part of the governor's agenda that was announced yesterday. So they encouraged us to consider it again in the future, but it won't be moving forward at this time, at least not from the governor's office. And here are some photos of some of the times that we had. Not as exciting as roller skating photos, but fun nonetheless, where we met with various members of the Senate and House of Representatives. And then we even have our own chair there testifying or sharing their experience on the omnibus policy provisions meeting. They allowed for representatives from various school boards to share their perspective, and it was really great to see Member Lofold sharing those perspectives. And then, as you see, various meetings with local and regional representatives, and was very grateful. I'm very grateful for the work that was done with the board, also with administration, but I think it was really the combination of all of us, including representatives from the teachers union, from the DFT. Ethan Fisher was with us, and when we were meeting with one of the senators, they said, I think that this is the first time that I've been lobbied at the same time by a school board member, administrator, and union representative. And so I think we're beginning to forge new pathways in what we do and how we do it. And so I'm very grateful for the partnerships that we all have as we advocate for the children of Duluth. As far as referendum updates, we've been scheduling staff meetings at each district site. We also have community and PTA meetings at each of the sites coming up, additional social media and newsletter updates that we put in place. We're updating our billboard that's out there. You'll see a very nice student-produced photo of some work being done in the auto shop, but we're moving from kind of that preliminary getting ready for the referendum messaging to stronger messaging related to voting and upcoming dates, early voting and those things, so that will be changed in the next couple of days here. We also have a new student video from Story North that I'll share with you in just a minute. We have an upcoming opinion column that I'll have in the Duluth News Tribune. And then yesterday there was an opinion piece in the Duluth News Tribune that was shared. It wasn't like a straight endorsing of the referendum, but it was very, very positive about why we're moving forward and what we're moving forward for. So I recommend to the public, if they haven't read it yet, to give it a chance. And again, though, however, we have to make sure that we're trying to get the word out as much as possible. This isn't about, for our point, in convincing people of voting yes or voting no. We just want to make sure that people are out there voting. And one thing that we've said in our sites is that we've worked really hard to make sure that the community is able to have a full conversation about that. That's why our previous school board voted to make sure that all of our election sites were open. We wanted to make sure that we had all of those sites open, even though it costs a little bit more for the district. It's important for that community conversation. Also, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't done during the presidential election. I think that all of us know, no matter what your political beliefs, that the presidential election is going to be intense. And I think it's important for us to be able to have a separate conversation about the referendum where it's not lost in that political chatter. And so it's important for us to have that May 14th referendum vote. Also, speaking of voting, March 29th is when early voting can start, which happens to be the day before my birthday. So please vote as a birthday gift to me, whether it's a yes or no vote. We just want people out there voting. And then the Duluth Area Chamber of Commerce, at their March 26th executive board meeting, I'll be doing a presentation regarding a referendum, and the chamber will be choosing whether or not they want to endorse the referendum. And then we'll also be putting together a packet that we'll share with each of the businesses that are part of the Duluth Area Chamber of Commerce, so that they'll have background information on the referendum, and then they can choose whether or not they want to include it in a newsletter or something of that sort, just so that we can spread that opportunity for conversation. Then we have two videos. The first is it's a student video that was produced by Story North, and I'll play that one for you, and the second one is from Captivate Media. So hopefully it'll work.
Hey, it's Reagan Kern from Denfeld High School. Did you know that you have the chance to shape our future in education in Duluth? This May, we're voting on something big, upgrading classroom tech and boosting support for our technical education classes. Imagine the possibilities. If you vote yes, it means $5.2 million every year for top-notch technology, cybersecurity, and training for our teachers. And get this, if you turn 18 before May 14th, you can vote too.
So this video was produced by Story North Productions, and it was a free, or something that they gave to us as a, sorry, I'm trying to get out of this, exit. No, there's no escape button. Escape. Thank you for the guidance. As I've mentioned, during our referendum, we need to make sure that staff are well supported with technology advice and so that they're able to navigate the world of the future successfully. And sometimes it comes from, we want to make sure that our youth too are highly skilled so that they can help other folks like myself. And so this is a Captivate Media piece on referenda versus bonds versus levies.
In our district, funding for buildings and programming comes from a lot of different sources. Most revenue comes through a combination of state funding and locally collected property taxes. However, this funding alone does not meet all the needs of our schools. Almost all Minnesota school districts, ours included, also depend on additional funding from their community through voter-approved bonds and levies. Even though they both require voter approval via a referendum, by law, bonds and levies pay for very different things. A bond referendum helps fund building projects. This might be putting a new roof on a school, updating old classrooms, or adding additional space. When a bond is involved, it's paying for physical spaces, helping to improve or add to the buildings where our students learn. Levies, on the other hand, provide funds for what happens inside classrooms and schools. There are two types of levy requests that come to voters: operating and capital projects levies. Operating levies help pay for staff, classroom materials, and academic programs. Capital projects levies, often referred to as technology levies, fund improving technology within the classroom with devices to help amplify student learning and the infrastructure needed to support all of the devices. These funds can also be used for network security as well as school security. No matter the type, levies support learning in the classroom. Another way to think about bonds and levies is that bonds help build the classrooms. Levies provide funding for the learning that happens in them. Remember, bonds are for buildings, levies are for learning. On May 14th, our district is going out for a technology levy.
This funding will help us provide our students and teachers with what they need to be successful for years to come. And as we look to the future, we know that strong schools equal strong communities.
Learn more about bonds and levies as well as the upcoming referendum by visiting our website. And don't forget to vote on or before May 14th.
So it's important for us to make sure that we are, just one sec, let me click here. Anyway, so it's important for us to make sure that we are informing the public well about our referenda and that we have the opportunity to make sure that people can make a very conscious decision. Again, we're not urging people to vote yes or no. We're just making sure that we have good community conversation. I know that there are different advocacy groups out there. There may be people that are working more towards the yes vote or more working towards the no vote, and it's important for those organizations to be able to get the message out there so that we can have good dialogue as a district. And it appears to be stuck. There we go. I think it's because of the size of the videos that are embedded into that slide. So related to some budget updates, I think we have some things that we've reported on through the HR Finance and Committee, the HR Business Committee, but just a few things that I wanted to share as part of my superintendent update. You'll find that across the state and country that there's a lot of deficits, facing deficit spending, in part due to the end of emergency relief funding. We've heard for many years about that COVID cliff that's coming, and the COVID cliff is now. And so the federal funding that we've had for our schools, we had over $30 million since 2020, $30 million, but it has to be spent by the end of June. And so basically that money is coming to an end, and we've used that money very successfully for interventionists, for technology, for enrichment, and all schools across the country are kind of getting ready for this drop-off of that funding. If you think about the Association of Metropolitan School Districts here, the bigger school districts in the state, there's over $300 million of budget deficit that they'll be dealing with collectively. And Minneapolis and St. Paul alone, Minneapolis is facing a budget deficit of over $90 million, and the St. Paul Public Schools is facing a budget deficit of over $105 million. So we do have some deficit to deal with for next year. As a district, it's about $6 million for next year. And we do have some ways that we want to focus on those changes for next year. Basically, Duluth Public Schools, with supportive leadership, we've planned well for this change, but we do have some shortfalls. If you remember, several years ago, we didn't really have money in our reserves. Reserves are meant for challenging times, and so we were able to build up reserves over the course of the past 4 years, and now there's a need for us to consider looking into some of those reserves to help cushion the blow as we scaffold off of the fiscal cliff that we have before us. If the referendum passes, we will still need to find reductions, but the impact will be decreased by about $2 million. Not for next year because it doesn't go into effect for next year, but the year afterwards. Because we're using currently approximately $2 million out of other budgets in the district to pay for the technology that we have in place. So if the technology budget passes, or if the technology referendum passes, that will reduce the amount of reductions we need in future years by about $2 million a year. So that's another reason why we're moving forward with a referendum at this time. Again, it's going to be critical that we seek budget reductions that have minimal impact on our students. I think that has to be our primary objective as we work together. We want to make sure that it's hard to pick anything that doesn't have effect on students, but we want to think about what has the most direct effect on our students and really always use that as our primary driver in decision making. And really, as I mentioned, we're looking at moving forward with a two-phase process of the budget reduction and reallocation, because it's not always just about reducing budgets, it's also about reallocating money from within so that we can make sure that our strategic objectives are funded. So phase one of what we're hoping to do would focus on addressing needs for the coming year. We would be looking at about $2.3 million in non-personnel budget reductions. So we'd be looking at a variety of things, and we'll share more starting at through the committee of the whole and also through our HR business meetings. But we're also looking at hopefully using some of the assigned fund balance if board approves to create that off-ramp for the ESSER spending. So we had some property sales here as a district, as we know. We sold historic Central for a couple $1 million, as well as sold the property behind us for about $7 million. So that money has been used somewhat for technology as it is, but we're also proposing using some of those funds for the coming year to decrease the blow that we will have. And I think we're in a lucky place as a district because we read about many other districts, Rochester, St. Paul, Anoka, Hennepin, many other districts throughout the state are having very serious reductions for next year. Even across the river in Superior, they're reducing by $6 million. We will be looking at reducing by $2.3 million in non-personnel reduction. But really, that's the easy part. It's not easy, but that's the part that we're moving into with an ability to make some quicker decisions. But the second part, the phase two, really needs to be a deep collaborative process, and it needs to involve the board, and it needs to involve other stakeholders as well. We want to make sure that there's robust conversation, that we have great transparency, and that we have everything on the table so that we can prioritize first by creating a process document called a guiding change document that would guide us towards what's our current reality and what's our vision for what we need to create and how are we going to get there. And really, my hope is that we can use the April board work session for some of that work. So that's something that I'm seeking input from the board on, because I think it will be important for us to really make sure that we're very well grounded in what we'll need to do starting in April and then moving through the following December, working all together to make sure that we have significant conversation about what those budget reductions and reallocations would look like. So we would wrap that up probably February of this coming year. So we've got about a year to do it. But I think to do it well, we need to make sure that we have that robust process. And I'm sure there might be questions on that or anything else in my presentation. And I apologize that the end of my presentation was kind of a stark reality of where we are budget-wise, but I think it's important for us to celebrate the things we're celebrating, like the negotiations having passed, the great student reports, the things we're doing with the referendum. And it's also important for us to take stock in our current reality that we do need to tighten our belt in certain areas.
Member Banks?
So can can you go back to the slide for just a moment, the previous one? I know I understand that, but can you talk more about the 2.3 million in non-personnel budget? What could that look like? If you could just
So I
explain
think
that.
it's important for us to make sure that we notify people through the organization too, as far as what those things that we're looking at might be, because any reduction you make is going to have impact on people, right? So if we, let's say we reduce, just a few things that we're looking at is reducing the amount of overtime that we're allowing people to use. I think facilities is a different story, because facilities, we have a shortage of workers. So if we have people that are able to work overtime to make sure our buildings are clean when we don't have the other people to do it, that's going to be a different circumstance. But we need to reduce the amount of overtime. We also have spent quite a bit in professional development travel. And so thinking about our travel funds and reducing there, that would be another example of something that we would reduce in. So I don't really like the term low-hanging fruit, but in some ways we're looking at what are some of the low-hanging fruit elements that we can look at to tighten up. There are a few things that I think it's important for us to have conversation on, and to be honest, like, people aren't going to like necessarily some of the reductions that need to take place. You know, like we might need to look at for instance, the floating subs that we have for our buildings. That's something that we've enjoyed and it's been helpful. And we all have to do cost analysis to see if that increased the amounts of overloads that we have. But we're looking at what are the areas that we can make reductions in where it's not going to have significant negative impact. Also, as sometimes if there are people who are moving out of positions or things of that nature, I think it's important for us during this time to examine, is it a role that might be shifted and absorbed by a couple of people rather than renewed and replaced? Because we know that if we're going to have significant budget reductions that will involve reductions of administration and teachers and other staff members, we want to make sure that we're being thoughtful now so that it doesn't all come next year. So those would be some of the examples, and I'd love to provide the board with more information. And at the same time, I want to make sure that internally that we have an opportunity to share this with principals and others too, because I think sometimes I get ahead of my skis and I share things at the board table and realize that it's, of course, also important for us to make sure that our teachers and teacher leaders and bargaining units are informed, as well as our building leaders, to ensure that there's coherence in what we do. But really that 2.3% represents about a little under 2% of our whole budget. So it does have impact, but if you think about a household budget, if you were to look at a 2% tightening of the budget, there are some things that are probably extras. That I know you like Starbucks, but maybe you're going from the Venti down to the Grande or something, right? So I think that's really what we're looking at. Again, it's not to say that these won't have impact or that they won't be felt, but we really tried to look at what are the non-personnel changes that we can make for this year so that we can really have that robust dialogue and that robust process that we need to make sure that we make the right choices for the coming year. Other districts have not had that luxury. Other districts have had to come in and make major reductions. I was talking with my colleague from Anoka Hennepin, and at their district office alone, they reduced by 50 positions for next year. And so I think it's important for us to realize that we have to put our seatbelts on and we have to be thoughtful about what that conversation looks like. And I think it should also serve as a reminder of why this referendum is important to us. That not that the referendum won't cure all of our ills for the budget situation that we're all facing, but it will lessen the impact. And so I would urge people to really strongly consider that when they're making a choice at the ballot box, and also as if they're deciding whether or not they're going to work to help to try to support the referendum conversation in the community.
Member Loeffler-Kemp?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. Let's see, I got kind of four things now, but I'll start with just appreciate in your updates highlighting Duluth Days and the really power of the work we all did together with staff and of all staff and as well as our teachers. Jill and I heard yesterday from people who still were talking about how powerful the Duluth delegation was. So thank you on that for staff who took the time to do that and board members as well. And then the second thing I guess I just wanted to comment on, I really appreciated the student reps all talking about the Construct Tomorrow. Your many updates, but I want to just kind of zero on the Construct Tomorrow event. Some of us have gone to that every year as board members. It's a great event. Superintendent Magus was a part of a press conference where he highlighted the importance of the day and the training, but also he really tied it into our referendum as well. And so it was a great day. Thank you all for highlighting it. There's so many different career options our kids have, and we start training them with our CTE classes and the importance of getting the funding, that piece of the funding for the referendum for CTE. And then I guess the other couple comments and then suggestions will be my last thing. But, I think we all are looking forward to the discussion or the vote around our teacher contract. And I just want to, personally thank Teresa and Simone and John and Anthony for all of the work that you did at the time. Ethan's here, so I'll thank Ethan as well, and his negotiating team. But and all the updates we did in closed session as well that you kept us a part of as well. So just thank you, being a part of negotiations in the past and being on a negotiating team myself. I know the commitment, so a huge just thank you on that. With our April retreat, I'm just wondering, thank you for your questions, Member Banks, if we can have an agenda sent out a little bit ahead of time so that if there's things that as different board members we see as we're talking about the budget that, I need to know more about this or I need to know more about that, that would be helpful. And then if we can just maybe provide things that have been helpful in the past when we've had these budget discussions, we can kind of give some input ahead of time. So I think using the retreat in April for part of that discussion will be good. But if you give us an avenue to say what we need, our win for that retreat, that would be really great.
I would be very, very grateful to get input from the board because really I serve at the pleasure of the board, and I mean that from a sense of I need to make sure that you're well informed so that you can make the tough decisions that you need to make as representatives of the community. And sometimes answering questions and dispelling certain information that's out there is important. One thing that's come to my attention, and I know there was a letter to the board recently, was about the percentage spent on administration for the district as compared to around the state. And there was actually through Baird, there was a process with coding of expenditures, and we talked about that in the fall, but I think it's important to reiterate here because it's very, very important. We are not double spending on administration here. What happened is the expenditures for ESSER, when we bought all the devices, when we did many of those other things, all of those expenditures went under because they came from certain budgets. It was assistant superintendent budget and superintendent budget. Those were all categorized as administrative expenditure. So even though they were devices and smart boards for the schools, it was listed as expenditure for administration. which then made it look like we have 8% administration in the district. We have, to be perfectly transparent, there have been a small number of positions that were added from an administrative perspective. There were also a greater number of positions that were added that were teachers on special assignment and things of that nature that were supportive in nature. But we're going to have to look at all of that. Again, as we said, we want to look at what affects the students least, and I think it's important for us to look at that. But I want to be really clear that there wasn't a huge oversizing of administration, that it was partly through that budget coding piece. So that would be an example of something that if you're having questions on, that we could help clarify during the board work session coming up. So really, if you think about what you have for questions, and I also have Executive or Assistant Paquette is setting up the one-on-one session, so we can talk there too, and we can start gathering ideas and make sure that we have that robust conversation as we start.
Member Lafleur-Kemper, okay. I'm gonna ask some questions, then I'll go to Member Zadowski. So I just want to do a shout out to, there was a picture of Larissa and Superintendent Magus, and I just want to share with our community and those that Larissa was there because she spent the week as a high school page representing our community, and I know she did a really great job. And typical, she didn't share that with us in her update or report, but it was really wonderful, and I would love to stay connected to how we can move ahead with having other students apply and be down there. So it was great to see her there, and I'm really proud of your work down there. And then so can you tell me what our reserve is right now, or what it is typically, or what is our reserve? Because we had this conversation on coffee and conversation this morning with school board members, and people were sharing what their reserves were and what they were using it for and when they use it.
Yes, and so it's important to us to look at our different fund balances. We have assigned fund balance and unassigned fund balance, and if you could just share a little bit about that.
Hi.
Hi.
Good question. So the assigned fund balance is at $17,588,000. The unassigned is sitting at a minus $6,703. It was to the good of $7 million last year, but our budget was overspent by $6 million, so that drew that down. Okay. The unassigned. So the 17 million is sitting in the assigned fund balance, and as Superintendent Magus said, we probably will be coming forth with board approval to use some of those funds to offset our overages next year. We can do that, but we have to go to the highest level, which is the school board. We would not do that without your permission.
And can you explain just a little bit, and we spent quite a few hours on things yesterday, and we've spent quite a few, so some of this is fresh with us, but the reason why the unassigned fund balance is in the negative is because we knew that there was a placeholder piece for the ESSER spending?
Yes, correct. So the ESSER spending is really a one-to-one. We spend 8 million, we drew down 8 million to offset it, but above and beyond that, we also spent an additional $6.5 million from the general fund, and if it's on the UFAR's compliance table, so if anyone wants to have some fun, I love to look at the numbers, it's all there. And we had money sitting in the unassigned fund balance that we can use for labor and benefits and anything else in the general fund, and that offset that $6.5 million. So we now are sitting with a minus $6,753, but that money is not technically in our cash. It is money that we don't have going forward to use to offset any overages. I don't
So
know.
is the seven, so what would it take, what needs to be in our reserve for a 3-month kind of cushion?
Well, the district spends between $10 and $12 million a month in payroll and bills.
Okay, good to know. Say that number again?
10 to 12 million. Payroll alone is close to 7 million. You know, I always say our accounts payable desk is a $2 million desk, so 9 to 10 million on a decent month, but we have, sometimes it hits a $12 million mark, but we average between 10 and 11 a month.
Okay. I just want to thank HR Director Severance for the highlights of the contract for us. That really helps us weed through a 72-page maybe contract with a lot of red lines and different things. So we like the highlights as well, but we'll dig into it as well. Okay, so April 25th is our workshop. We wanted to get it earlier, but just wasn't, that was I mean, we wanted maybe to move it up and try to find a date, maybe attached to another meeting we were having, but actually we settled on April 25th.
Executive Director Zunich, can you just clarify again for the board and the community the $17 million where that came from? Because I know you didn't mention it, Superintendent did, but you didn't mention it when you spoke a moment ago. Can you just share again where that $17 million came from?
It came from so we were at a $10 million mark for the last 3 years, and that is money that is just set aside for curriculum, technology, and capital expenses, and that balance kept slowly growing. And then we sold the land for $7.6 million, and then the Hawk sale. So all that money goes into the assigned fund balance because we should not be using it for labor and benefits, but we can, if need be, if we are in a situation, as Superintendent Magus said, we are fortunate that we have that little cushion, but it'll only last a temporary amount of months.
My last question would be, in the coding that we did for the kind of anomaly of looking like we spend a lot of administration, can that be changed? Can you go back into the system and change the coding so it just kind of doesn't?
Nope.
No?
We really
Okay.
can't. Those are, and those are audited accounts, budget codes. They were approved by MDE, and it says administration costs, but I'm looking, I have my UFARS manual up, and where our technology was coded to, Program 108, it's called Administrative Technology Services and Supplies. So those are UFARS words and that are put into the system. We cannot control those. Our auditors are very strict. They came in and said, how did you spend your ESSER money? And they review all of that, and MDE does as well. We have what we call a Chapter 10 grid, and it has to pass a test. We have a 17-digit budget code, and every part of that sequence means something. You know, it means the fund, if it's an expense, if it's a site, what program it goes to, what finance group it goes to, what object code, if it's a salary or a benefit, or if we're buying paper or a book. And then the last 3 digits represent a course code, which is an internal identifier for us. So all of these numbers, they may look like they're administration, but I have everything right here in front of me. It was, for the most part, technology, but even the UFARS manual calls that administrative technology services.
Member Zadowski.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Member Loeffler-Kemp's gratitude for everyone who was involved with the negotiations. It's just kind of a historic moment, I think, for Duluth Public Schools, and I'm really proud of the contracts that we all created together. And you know, we all need to be, I always say we need to be in the boat paddling the same way. And it certainly feels like after we were done lobbying down in the cities, it felt that way. And thank you, Member Lofeld, for sharing what others noticed too about us all being down there together. So just wanted to echo gratitude for everyone involved in that process. And also just wanted to say thank you for the referendum updates, Superintendent Magus. Also wanted to say thank you to Board Secretary Paquette for always sending out the calendar invitations to the board for the different referendum, just meetings, outreach that we're doing collectively as a board. And then today, my computer just went dead, but the chamber event, so just kind of thank you in advance for keeping us updated on how we can help spread the word about the referendum in our community. So.
Thank you. And just to comment on that, if you don't mind, or to comment on some of the other questions and such, I think given that the board workshop is not taking place until the end of April, it might be beneficial for us, because I know not everybody's on the HR business committee. It might be beneficial for us to have some of the, like, 2x2 and 2x3 meetings, so that we can inform board members and get people up to speed. So we'll be reaching out for that too, because we want to make sure, again, that you're very well informed about our current status. And as things come, sometimes things come to, this was something that we knew about. We've been talking about the ESSER cliff for a long time, but I think it's important that everybody is extremely well informed as we move forward too.
I think it was Member Leffler-Kemp, but we'll go to Member
go
Eder
ahead.
first.
Yeah.
And I, as chair of the HR Business Services Committee, I just want to add just a little bit of context, because we heard Executive Director Zunich talk about spending down our unassigned fund balance, and we did, and that was a conscious choice by the district. We had certain priorities and things that we needed to get done at that time that was important, especially as we were working through COVID and supporting our students and our teachers. And so those were conscious decisions. It wasn't done as if we didn't think about how that money was going to be spent, and pulling that money out of that unassigned fund balance to go ahead and support students and staff needs in our budget. So those were things we knew that were built into our budget as we pulled that money out. I just want to make sure that our public is aware that we're very thoughtful when we think about our fiduciary responsibility to our public in making sure that we're spending our money the best way that we possibly can and in a responsible manner. The other thing I want us all to think about, and just remind our public as we move forward and think about some of the belt tightening that we're going to have to do as a district. We as a district, with support of our staff and especially our teachers union, as we've gone through some pretty significant language changes in our contract having to do with changing what our elementary school model looks like, what our middle school model is going to look like, and then what our high school model is going to look like as we move forward, making changes that are going to better serve our students and better support our staff. And those changes come at cost. So during this time where we do have to think about belt tightening, we are also going to be expanding and enriching our students' lives in the Duluth Public Schools, thinking about going through when our kindergartners walk out until our graduates cross the stage. We will have been making an investment in our schools, in our children, and in our teachers. So we do have some difficult decisions to make. It is always difficult to think about budget reductions, but what I really want all of us to keep in mind at the end of it is that we are expanding opportunities for our kids, and we're using the money that our public has graciously given us very well. So it is going to be tough. We will have a lot of decisions to make, but we are having to make and having to shift these resources because we've collectively decided that schedule changes and supporting our teachers and staff are what we need to do next to bring those test scores up and to make sure that we're offering an equitable, quality, future forward education. So I just wanted to give us a little texture and a little context as we think about all this moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you very much. That was extremely well said, because I was kind of feeling too like the way things were phrased were putting it out there in a way that that this wasn't something that we've planned or something that we've done, but really, as you've said, this is not just about budget reduction. It's about reallocation. We've allocated money to make sure that our teachers are respected and paid reasonably. We've allocated money to make sure that our high school schedule and middle school schedule result in better graduation rates and greater engagement and greater delivery on those desired daily experiences, and really reinvesting in our elementary schedule and literacy instruction so that our outcomes for kids are improved. And so really this has been, when I started, we didn't have much of a fund balance. We've been able to build that up, but we built it up partly knowing that we wanted to make these investments, and also that we were going to have to be thoughtful about what the tailing off of ESSER spending was. So this is, and I would say this is not just this board, it's been past boards. I think about the work done by previous boards that we've had, thinking about the leadership that we had from previous finance directors. All of that was laying the foreground so that we're not facing some of the same challenges that other districts around the state are. We still have challenges, but the challenges are quite a bit less than they would be otherwise. So thank you for your leadership as a board, and thank you to past leaders who, upon whose shoulders we're standing.
Member Loeffler-Kemp.
Thank you. Well said. I'm glad I'm working on this board with you, Member Eder. Well said. Superintendent Magus, you must have read my mind, because when I put my light on, it was just wanting to do some additional trainings or meetings on the budget, and also just, again, thinking about kind of how we've had these discussions in other years. I'm wondering if our April Committee of the Whole meeting can include more training as well on just the budget, information that we all should have anyway. So if we can maybe talk about that to help prepare for that retreat. So we're kind of coming all at the same table with knowledge.
I think that would be good, and maybe if others want to provide input to Chair Lofold or to me directly on preferences, but we could also look at maybe reducing the number of other presentations so that we're not doing, a deep budget dive for 3 hours and then having 3 hours of presentations, because we want to make sure that our minds need to be fresh around this, because it's a critical time-sensitive piece for us. So I'll also work with Assistant Superintendent Bonds, who coordinates that agenda, with our progress monitoring calendar that we all put together to reallocate time. It's not just money, but we need to reallocate time as well.
I don't see any other green lights on, Superintendent Magus. So do you have any closing remarks before we move away from the superintendent's section here?
Just think about third graders and xylophones for just a moment, because that was a nice reset for all of us. And again, to reflect on Cindy Miller's award and the great things that have happened with negotiation. I think that we have a lot to celebrate tonight, and I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be superintendent in such an amazing district and work with such amazing people.
So next on our agenda is the just the schedule of meetings and events, and Patty's been Executive Secretary Paquette is really great at giving us those weekly updates, and so I know those are attached to board book. And are there any questions or concerns about that weekly event? Also attached to that sometimes too is our weekly event, our other information that Patty is sharing with us too. So kind of look at that. Yes, and school board reps sometimes, late nights or long meetings, please feel like, you have to get to where you need to be so you're ready for school tomorrow. But we appreciate you always being here. So we're going to go to the report of the standing committees, number 7. So I'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent for his brief remarks on the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you, and good evening again, everyone. We held the Committee of the Whole on March 4th. There were several topics presented at that time. Jennifer Garbo, the coordinator for the Office of American Indian Education, and I provided a brief overview of the annual compliance of concurrency and non-concurrence. We also provided a mid-year update to the action steps that were taken for the 2022-2023 non-concurrence that was given. And we reviewed the recommendations from the 23-24 vote of non-concurrence that was provided by the APAC committee. Mrs. Garbo and the EAC parent advisory committee chair, Amber Greensky, provided an update related to the Department of American Indian Education. They're going through a time of transition and a time of change. The new coordinator started in January, and the APAC committee also was reestablished, and Amber Greensky was moved as the chair for that committee. The department is also in the process of strengthening its existing goals, identifying barriers for student success, and exploring new opportunities both within the district and outside of district with regards to partnerships. Sally White, the Student Achievement Coordinator, and classroom teacher London Good provided an update related to our modern classroom project that's underway in the district. Duluth Schools is wrapping up its second year of training teachers in modern classroom. It is a self-paced, blended learning, mastery-based instructional model. Mrs. Good provided and shared her experience and training as she implemented it in her 5th grade classroom. Our final presentation of the night was provided by Taylor Dixon from IEA. They were requested to provide a complete assessment of our current district security practices, including the review of buildings, as well as the district's written emergency operation plans. Taylor provided that update, and we will have additional updates provided by her and our climate committee and our other emergency management committees as well. And that was the COW agenda. Thank you.
Any questions? Again, thank you for that review, and we all know that our committee of the whole meetings are rich and interesting and full of great information that are vital, and I just really appreciate the 3 that we had, and also really it's important that we did the safety audit and we had Taylor come and present and realize that we really are taking that element also seriously about where we're at with school safety, with buildings and doors and routes. We're really impressed with that. So I appreciate the fact that the district's willing to invest that money to bring in the experts to go through all of our buildings and give us a plan for that. Our next committee of the whole is our Human Resource and Business Service, and I'll turn it over to Chair Eder to again bring us through the HR business meeting.
This was a great meeting I think we ripped through it in 30 minutes. It was one of those meetings where we got the agenda quick and we got it made. So let's talk about that meeting on Monday, March 11th. We had no guest presentations and we moved right into our department reports. We started out with our human resource. Our staffing updates, as we look, it's always good to see the number of new hires versus the number of retirements, resignations, and leaves of absences. We also have some other updates in terms of our HR department. We did have, as we are moving away from some of those ESSER positions, those notices were sent out before the February break and are also will be sent out during March. The majority of those positions will be reposted. Do I have anything else to add to that piece? Nope, great. I always like it when I get things correct and I don't screw them up. On February 15th, Executive Director Teresa Severance attended the Minnesota Public Employee Labor Relations Association Winter Conference, where the topics went from legislative changes to the Public Employment Labor Relations Act, and also some continuing education as we figure out our earned sick and safe time and how we implement those changes, and then also to continue to learn how to work with all of our unions and move our district forward. We have some benefits updates. We all know that our 1095Cs are going out as it's tax time, so we all have to get our paperwork. You can see looking in our agenda, you can see the hiring updates for certified and non-certified staff. We are continuing to look for paraprofessionals and, of course, maintenance. We're really in need of our school custodians, our engineers, and our master electricians. And please, 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 if you know anybody, we desperately need bus drivers and bus helpers so that we can make sure to run all of our routes on time. I know as a parent in the district, every once in a while you end up with one of those notices talking about a bus schedule change or a route change as we try to deal with people that have sick time and vacation in our transportation department. So we encourage anybody to apply to become a bus driver. As we've all heard and we are all thrilled about with our contract negotiations, we collectively between our Duluth Federation of Teachers and our administrative team have come up with 2 2-year contracts, so that's great for us. I especially am happy to hear about that as the chair of the HR Business Services, because it allows us to project out for our budgets many years without having to think about those continual contract negotiations. So this is great news for our district, and I know that I'm going to be very excited to be an enthusiastic yes on both of those contracts this evening. We are still in active negotiations with our Education Directors Association, and we are still waiting to start our contract negotiations with our clerical unit and also our district-wide Instructional Administrators Association. And then our National Conference of Firemen and Oilers contract is going to expire in July 1st, 2024. So while we've done a tremendous amount of work, we still have some contracts to settle, but I know we're looking forward to getting those done as well. So that is our HR monthly department service, our summary report. Next, we move on to business services, and we take a look at our enrollment report. And as I always like to yip about every month, we continue to have more students than what we budgeted for, so that's always great news to make sure that we're filling our classrooms in our Duluth Public Schools. So that was our enrollment report for this month. My next favorite, and maybe it is my favorite report, is the child nutrition report. I love to come and be a publicly elected official and get to talk about the milk contract and commodity prices and pizza and all sorts of fun things. So we are getting our summer meals for 2024 planned. We will have those summer meals for all for all kids and students under 18. The eligibility, what am I doing right now? Oh, so we will again be a provider for summer school meals, and I don't believe we know where we're going to be hosting those meals yet, but when that information is available, we'll get it out there as soon as possible. Am I right? Yay. And then here's exciting. We're looking at our commodity purchases for the school year of 2024 to 2025. For over 15 years, our child nutrition department has taken almost all of its commodity dollars to purchase fresh fruits and vegetables through a Department of Defense program. We will be spending this year around $275,000 in fresh fruits and vegetables, as well as, and this sounds appetizing, ground beef crumbles, so those sound delicious, diced chicken and other proven favorites and quality and taste. So our budget for the next 2 years is going to be somewhere in the range of $372,000. So that is our child nutrition report for the month. Moving on to facilities. We always like to talk about and uplift our facilities department that have completed quite a few work orders through the month, continuing to make sure that our schools are safe and healthy for our students. We had an auction of surplus items the 24th of February at our Garfield building, and we did make around $32,000 on that, I believe. We continue to have some capital and construction projects. Our Smith Bell and Clock has begun the repairs on the clock tower at Denfeld. Every day I look up to see if it's done yet, but the hands aren't there, but they will be soon. We are working on the Duluth News Tribune building, on some schematic designs for that building about how it's going to best serve our students and staff. We also have a bid for the Holmcroft parking lot renovation. We're working on some projects at Lowell Elementary, continuing to monitor the Lincoln Park School Pool project to make sure that we can get that pool up and ready for our students. We've also sent out a quote for our Lincoln Park Middle School pool filter replacement portion. And then we also, again, are going to be in need of custodians and engineers to help keep our schools clean and safe for our students. So that was our facilities report for the month. Technology. For this technology report, we did not have any e-bid RFPs or any bids. We continue to see a tremendous amount of activity over the district as our students and our staff are working hard and using our technology. And then moving on to transportation. Transportation, the biggest thing that we see in transportation is staffing is continuing to be a challenge, and I know that our human resource department and all of our school is continuing to look for bus drivers and see what an attractive job it can be to help our kids get to where they need to be in the morning. We like to thank Joe because when we have When we need somebody to drive those buses, Joe is always there to sub en routes and do that hard work. So we are very thankful to Joe. We know that our staff is getting worn out this time of year just because of the demands placed on them. And our buses are still having some issues because of age and rust, but we have gotten 2 used buses and we're getting ready to put them into service. Are they in service yet? Or are we still waiting?
On the buses?
Yeah.
We have them now.
So they're having, are they out driving routes?
Yes.
Yay, so our new buses are out driving routes. And then Jill, 5 more vans, so those are going to be, we'll be voting on to make sure we can purchase those 5 vans, so that's going to be great. So that is our transportation report. We have a recommended resolution that we'll talk about later. Acceptance of donations to the Duluth Public Schools. I want to thank all those people that donate generously to the students and staff of our Duluth Public Schools. Your generosity is always appreciated by all of us. As we move on to our consent agenda, we have our HR staffing report that you can look at. That would be located on page 15. We also have our financial report and our fundraiser. And looking through all of those, I didn't see anything of note in our financial report. Everything is continuing to move forward. I guess, Executive Director Zunich, we did have some additional, about $1.9 million added to our revenue, and then we had about close to the same as we went out on our expenses.
That's correct. This was, I'm presenting you with a revised budget.
Yep, this is for the revised budget. So if you have any questions about that, please ask, and then we'll be happy to talk about them. That was our financial report. Look at our fundraisers as well. Where am I at? So we have fundraisers for our Duluth Spanish, for their Duluth Spanish Club, so that's exciting for them. And we have 1 bid RFP and quote, that's for our Homecroft parking lot reconstruction. So that is currently out. We had no contracts, change orders, or leases. And then we moved on to our expenditure contracts. Located on those expenditure contracts, you can see our buses and our vans. We also have some work done through our Office of Education Equity for some Black History Month occurrences that happened during the month of February. Events, not occurrences, events. Some events that happened during Black History Month. We also have some things for special services as we go out into our community and serve our littlest of scholars. So those were our expense contracts. We had no cost contracts, and then we have a revenue contract on page 63. Let me get there. That has to do with Nordic Auction, and this is having to do with the sale of items we talked about earlier of around $33,000. So that was our revenue contract. And then lastly, when we look at our grant applications, these were extremely exciting to look at these grant applications. We had a mini grant application from Laura MacArthur Elementary for $500. This is going to be used to support PBIS in our schools. We love to support that, and especially for our little learners over at Laura MacArthur. We have a couple from Minnesota Arts Grants, another one for Arrowhead Regional Arts Consortium, written by Rachel Lofald for Denfeld Music for about $15,000 between the 2 grants. And I just want to sit with this for a minute to provide music lessons from community artists for our students in band, orchestra, and choir to cover 200 lessons for one, and then for the second grant to provide over 100 additional lessons. So that is incredible work, and I just wanted to lift that up for all of us today. We also have another Duluth Public School grant of around $3,000 so that we can get kits for DNA and genetics work to be used in our science classrooms. I love hearing that. We also have another one from Minnesota Start Arts Board for around $10,000 as part of our Head Start grant. One of the goals is walking the talk of equity and inclusion, and this grant will allow us to focus on closing the Opportunity and Achievement Grant for populations that have been historically underserved by our school districts, community, and community at large. This program is going to work to increase representation of people of color in our classroom, and that's happened over the past 3 years as well. The Duluth Preschool has partnered with local BIPOC artists for a 10-week artist in residency program, which has been well received by our classroom students and family and folks in our community. This program has committed $10,000 annually to support this program, which allows us to have these BIPOC artists in residency for 8 of our 12 full-day classrooms. So this is just an exciting, I looked through these grant applications for February, and I was just, my heart was singing because thinking about all the opportunities that may be opened up for all of our students in the Duluth Public Schools. So on that very exciting note, I would like to end my report and open up for any questions.
Just a comment.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, question, sorry. Go
Nope,
ahead.
I was going to move on, but
I was just going to say, once again, I just want to say how much I appreciate the HR Finance, HR Business Services, I should say, committee, because it does provide a lot of direction and leadership to what we do as a district, and you serve as a rudder for many things that we do. Thanks.
Thank you. It's fun.
seeing no other questions, we'll go on to our last committee report. It is our policy committee. It's led by Chair Loeffler Kemp.
Thank you, and again, thank you for your report. I do have one comment about the Head Start, by the way. That really came from parents. When I was on their governing board, that discussion started a couple years ago, and they really kind of worked through to make that happen. So I was very excited to see that. And I know Member Sadowski is on that committee now and can celebrate with them and share if we can get out too. So thank you. Thanks for a great report. So yeah, we had our policy committee on Monday, March 4th. It seems like a long time ago. We did not have any policies for the first reading. Policies for the second reading, which in February, I kind of talked a lot about this policy. So it's policy 811, our playground installation and maintenance. And as I always do, I'll read the purpose of this policy is to establish criteria and procedures for the installation and maintenance of playgrounds on district-operated property. This includes when community groups fundraise or apply for grants for playgrounds to be located on district-owned property, for playgrounds that are installed by the district, and for playgrounds that are currently in place. And just again, a big committee of folks were involved with redoing or with this policy, and thank you, Teresa, for your leadership on that as well, and bringing the different stakeholders together. So this is, again, our second reading. With the second reading, we'll be deleting policy 3045, 5115, and policy 7115, and much of those policies are contained in this new policy. So, and that'll be on the consent agenda. And then the second policy for second reading is policy 604, instructional curriculum. And again, the purpose of this policy is to provide for the development of course offerings for students. As we talked about last time, it covers our elementary, middle school offerings. It covers career planning, CPR offerings, the Parental Curriculum Review Committee. And so this is the second reading for that. And with this policy, we delete policies 6041, 6125, and 6130. And then policies for review our policy, it says 375, request for proposals, and we've renumbered it to 725 because, again, we're all moving to the 100 series. One of the things we added to this policy is just the purpose, so it's consistent with our other policies. So the purpose of this one is the district administration is authorized to enter into a joint purchasing agreement with the state of Minnesota to allow the district to purchase goods and services listed on the state's contract index at the prices and terms available to the state. The district is not required to obtain bids and quotations for purchases made from the state's contract index. Furthermore, administration is authorized to purchase goods and/or services from other governmental or school district cooperatives or joint purchasing ventures established through a competitive bidding process. So that's the purpose of this policy, and because the substance of it hasn't changed, we just need to have one reading on it. And so that's policy 725. And then regulations, again, more for information is 604R instructional curriculum that follows the 604 policy. And then 3075R, which again should be 725R, which is the bids, quotes, request for proposals, so that the process for that. So all of this information, again, is going to be on the consent agenda. We also did onboarding because my committee had 2 new school board members on it. So I want to thank Patty Paquette for spending the time with us as we onboarded our new board members on the process behind policies and a little bit history of the 4-year policy committee. So that is my report. Any questions or comments?
Superintendent Magus?
I too want to say thank you to Patty. She does a lot to make sure that she is helping us shepherd our policies, and a lot of what she's put together, thinking about the new spreadsheet with drop-down menus and things like that that we've used, it's really a very positive step in the right direction, and it's a systems improvement for us. I'd also like to, as a policy committee, celebrate something that I don't know if most people know this because it was news to me as of a week or so ago, that the Minneapolis public schools, they were looking to adopt a gender inclusion policy. And a lot of times they'll look, when we are looking to the cities for what progressive policies can we find that are focused on equity. And Minneapolis public schools actually used the Duluth policy as their model to advance equity in their district. And so I'm pleased with the work of our team in putting that together, as well as the policy committee. And it's just kind of a little kudos that we're not just serving as a leader here in the Northlands and for Duluth and the area, but for the state. So thanks for the policy committee for that work.
Thank you. Member Sadowski and I were at a training a week ago for officers, and we had many people asking us about that policy, as well as people really, there was some good discussion also around our public participation policy, both our policy, but also how similar it is to what other school districts are doing. And so we had some really good discussion with school board members around the state around that policy too. But really, we walked out of there pretty proud about the gender inclusion policy, didn't we, Amber? Yeah. So, thank you.
Seeing no other lights on, again, too, just a shout out to the whole policy committee and the journey that you've been on for 4 years and taking on new members and now going forward to it. Policies are really a big part of our work, and it's great to have a team that does it. And then as other board members, we can watch the committee meetings and we can read the policies and then listen to your report and ask our questions, but it's really a great system that we have. So thank you. So that concludes our committee reports, and then they're on the consent agenda, so we will move forward. And I guess I'm going to kind of step outside the box a little bit. It probably could have come up maybe under consent, but I just realized that just all board members, I think, have said something I probably haven't, but we are going to approve a contract for our teachers bargaining unit and with our teachers and staff, and it's now going to be on the consent agenda, so we won't really have a chance to just, other than vote on it, say how appreciative we are of the hard work. And looking at the language and looking at the salaries, there's just a lot of great things that are coming there. I'll note that, we're really applying to increase the salaries of our first-year teachers, and that's important. And I think that we have been making gains in our extracurricular, salaries, and so I appreciate the work that we do there as well. And just, again, a really celebration time for tonight when we pass it on the consent agenda, if we do, which I think we will. I will. Okay. So now we can go on to number 8, and that's just general board committee updates. I was going to try to pull up, Patty, and I couldn't pull it up, but I think all the committees that we have been assigned to, but when I tap on the link on my Chrome, it doesn't come up. If you want to put it up on the screen share, that would be great. But again, school board members not only attend our regularly scheduled meetings you just heard reports from, but we are assigned committees. And so you can kind of see where those committee assignments are that are the general school district committees. And I'm just asking if there's anyone that wants to share anything of any of your committees that you went on this month. Member Zadowski.
Yeah, I'll just give a brief update about the Head Start Policy Council. I appreciated Member Loeffler-Kemp kind of highlighting the work that they did for that grant that you talked about, Member Eater. But we met on last week on March 14th from 5:30 to 7:30 at Lowell. I've really enjoyed our meetings. We're in one of the Ojibwe immersion classrooms, so it's been, before this, attending these meetings, I had never gotten to go into one of those classrooms, and so it's fun to see. Some of the things that they worked on at the last meeting is approving a new org chart, which highlights how policy councils are responsible for the direction of the Head Start programs in our district. So you probably can't see it here, but here's the Head Start Policy Council and then the school board, and there's a little arrow showing how we work together. So that was good to look at, putting that back there. They also looked at some policy and procedure around student, if there's an accident that happens with a student and it needs an injury or incident report. So they looked at that policy. They looked at the budget. The Head Start budget's going to be a little tight next year. Actually, very tight was the words that was used. And I think part of that has to do with the decisions we're making about where we're, prioritizing our spending. But they know that and they're planning for it. They also talked about just how dry it's been, and apparently dust on the playscapes has been an issue. And so some of them were going to go out and maybe spray the playscapes. And so I don't know, you don't really hear about that this time of year in Minnesota. So that's a little unfortunate. And then they talked about how next year there's going to be a full blending of preschool classrooms. So the voluntary PK, they call it VPK, and the school readiness and the Head Start are going to be blended together a little bit next year, and that's going to really help us meet the needs of our families. They've been slowly reducing the number of half-time preschool programs, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Assistant Superintendent, but I think we still have about 3 half-day preschool programs, but what we've been hearing from our families is they want full-time. I mean, a lot of our families are working and they need that component, and we want to make sure our littlest learners are ready for kindergarten as well. And then there's a few other things. They got another grant for Circles of Security in the classroom, which is really great. Attachment-based proven curriculum for teaching parenting skills. And then they were working on their end of the year event at the Great Lakes Aquarium, which is going to be on May 9th. So that'll be all for the Head Start families.
Not seeing any other committee reports, just, this is not a committee, but I just want to thank the school board members that we're continuing our intentional visits into schools to, be taken into classrooms by the building principal, by, sharing and seeing how the lunchrooms work and all of that. We've been to Congdon, ALC, AEO, Myers-Wilkins, MacArthur, Ordine East, East High School, Chester Creek, Am I missing any?
Lakewood, Ordine.
Is that, so Lakewood, okay. So thank you, and we'll continue to put those invites out, and encourage you to also send an invite and then invite us. So it will help, it will help. So moving on then, it brings us to our consent agenda. And on our consent agenda is a number of things like approval of minutes, approval of action items that come under our committees, and diploma requests and field trip requests, data sharing agreements. We're going to approve the policy readings that Member Loeffler-Kemp shared with us, and we'll approve the committee meetings. And so that's on the consent agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda. And a second? Is there any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. That brings us to the, resolutions from our committee reports. So looking at our first one under 10A, Member Zadowski has this resolution. And we're going to vote on all of these at the end, except for the contract ones? Did we?
I think we're
Is
gonna
that the
vote, I think we're voting on this one.
Okay, we're voting on
Separate?
this one. Okay. On the
Yeah,
donations.
We are
Okay,
voting on the
yep,
donations separate,
Okay.
and we do that on a roll call.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is, I move Resolution B-3-24-4018. And this is the acceptance of donations to Duluth Public Schools. And I don't think I need to read the whole
we
thing,
don't.
but that's the resolution, and I'll highlight a couple of them. One of them was mentioned earlier, an in-kind donation from Kevin Jacobson for the Future Forward referendum videos. There were some contributions to Head Start from Jane Killow, and then a donation to Lester Park for items for Lindell's Setting 3 classroom, and then a donation to Piedmont from Salem Lutheran Church, which was an in-kind donation of groceries, hats and mittens, different basic needs items. So we'll do a roll call vote on that. Member Banks?
Yes, excuse me, yes.
Member Eder?
Yes.
Member Loeffler-Kemp? Yes. Member Lofeld?
Yes.
Yes, and then Member Williams?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion carries. Did we?
Oh, maybe we need it, let's do a second. Thanks.
Second.
Perfect,
So motion carries
Yes.
6-0.
perfect.
And so we'll go on to the special resolutions, and we can take A, D, just A, because the D and E are not resolutions. So, yeah, okay. We'll vote on them all separate. So, special resolution A, Representative Williams.
Okay. Resolution SP 3-24-4019. School board member attendance at MSBA/MASA Day at the Capitol. Resolve that Independent School District 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, pay cost incurred as per district policy for school board members to attend MASA Day at the Capitol.
Is there a second to that resolution? Second. Member Zadowski seconds it. All those in favor of resolution SP-3-24-4019, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Our next resolution is 11B, and it is Member Loeffler-Kemp.
I move resolution HR 324-4020, resolution Duluth Federation of Teachers, be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that the collective bargaining agreement between Independent School District 709 and the Duluth Federation of Teachers, a summary of which is in the hands of all school board members, be approved and adopted for the period of July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2025, inclusive, and that the chairperson and clerk of the school board be hereby authorized to execute the agreement on behalf of the school district.
Is there a second?
Second.
Member Banks seconds. Any discussion? I could have shared now what I shared earlier, and I won't.
Just a really quick question, just for clarification, just in case the public would like to know. So this is retroactive to July 2023, correct?
Yes.
Correct. See no others. We have a motion and a second, and we'll do a roll call vote so that we can all say our yeses.
Member Banks,
An enthusiastic yes.
Member Derek Eater,
An enthusiastic yes.
Member Loeffler Kemp,
Proudly doing a yes.
Member Lofall.
Ecstatically doing a yes.
I vote very much yes. I can't think of anything else, so. And Member Williams.
Yes.
Perfect. Motion passes.
Our next resolution will be read by Member Eater.
This is Resolution HR 3-2-4021, the resolution for the Duluth Federation of Teacher contract, resolved by the Minnesota School Board of Independent School District 709, St. Louis County, Minnesota, that the collective bargaining agreements between the Independent School District 709 and the Duluth Federation of Teachers, a summary of which is in the hands of all school board members, be approved and adopted for the period of July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2027, inclusive, and that the chairperson and clerk of the school board be hereby authorized to execute said agreement on behalf of the school district.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Member Banks seconds, and we'll do a roll call vote on this contract as well.
Member Williams.
Yes.
I vote yes. Member Lofall.
Now you're going in a different order, so
I
I don't
am.
have my verb or
Seeing
my
if
adjective.
You guys are paying
Yeah.
attention here.
Okay, I'll say a future forward yes.
Member Loeffler Kemp.
So glad we're doing another 2 years. Yes.
Member Derek Eater.
So glad to vote on a second two-year contract, yes.
And Member Banks.
An absolute yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Motion carries. Good motion. Okay, we still have D and E, the approval of modified 2023-2024 school year calendar and approval of a 2024-2025 school year calendar. Superintendent Magus, do you just want to highlight these two items on our agenda?
Sure, I will briefly, and then I'll turn it over to Assistant Superintendent Bonds, who worked on facilitating the scheduling committee. Basically, the schedule changes are needed, or the calendar changes are needed due to the contract changes. And really, part of it for this year is really addressing a change at the end of the year needed for professional development. And next year, it's around making sure that we have the days for professional development in as well. And I think this really speaks to one of the primary things that we were both collectively looking for in the negotiations was making sure that we had time for professional learning for our educators, to make sure that they have the respect and opportunity to learn as much as possible so that we can better serve our students. But Mr. Bonds, you want to address what we're doing in our calendars?
Yes, I'll start off with the 23-24, if we can take a look at that calendar. And if we go into the month of June, you will see a change where it says June 5th is the student's last day. That is a change. So students will have one less day of school. And then you'll see there are 2 additional professional development days on June 6th and June 7th. So one less day for students, but 2 additional professional development days on June 6th, June 7th. Also, as part of the contract, there's another professional development I'm going to air quote day, because there are 8 hours of professional development that will be done asynchronously, so before those 2 days. So staff are required to participate in 8 hours of professional development prior to the 2 days, which again is on June 6th and June 7th. So it's a total of 3 professional development days at the end of the school year, as Superintendent expressed. It's to make sure that our staff are well prepared as we exit for summer and make sure a lot of items are shored up before, against our staff leave. There's a number of additional trainings that are required. I'll just remind the board that the state has moved forward with a significant training related to literacy called the READ Act. This will allow staff to not only have some opportunities to receive some training as it relates to that, as indicated by Member Derek Eater. There's also some other refinements that have happened within our schedules, namely the middle school and the high school schedule has changed. And as a result of those changes, we are making sure that our staff are prepared to teach potentially longer periods of time with students. So there's training that will be provided for some staff as relates to that. And just the anticipation and preparation that's needed for a change in the schedule, moving towards a 7-day, 7-period day. So there's a lot of need for training and support and just readiness before our staff exit. So we're really excited about the 3 days at the end of the school year for that training that will be provided. So, and we also want to make sure that we let our community know right away. And so this was all anticipation that the, great anticipation that the contracts would be approved. And so we're ready to communicate that out to families, this change. So any questions related to the current year, 23-24?
Member Lawfield-Kemp?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have a question, but I think you answered my thoughts I was having about just how we're going to let our families in particular and the community know ASAP so they can plan those 2 days, especially childcare. So thank you.
Thank you. We have communication ready. Again, we were hopeful that the contracts would pass. So if we move over to the 24-25 calendar, again, we are really excited about the change here. Again, the DFT and administration had the shared common goal of making sure that our staff really had opportunities for professional development. So we are pleased that we have been able to add professional development days. So in this new calendar for next year, you will see several days of professional development. They are on my screen, they appear to be gold, so I'm not sure what they appear to be on yours. On my screen, you'll see in gold those days, namely October, I'm just gonna point out a couple, October 14th, November 27th, December 23rd, February 24th, May 27th, and then, of course, we still have professional development days on the front end of the school year as well. So again, we are really excited about the changes that will allow embedded staff development for our teachers and other staff as well. And more information will come with regards to what those professional development days will look like. Also, I wanted to point out on here, highlight that we were also excited and we moved forward with another change, and that day is the October 14th date. It shows as a PD day. We know that's a pretty choppy week for our students, but we wanted to take a step forward with honoring Indigenous People Day. And so this allowed us to provide that opportunity. At least our students will not have to be in attendance, but our staff will be in attendance, engaged in professional development. And a part of that day will focus on Indigenous education and professional development and around culture and so forth. So more information to come on that. But again, we want to, I want to spotlight and recognize that we have moved forward with honoring our American Indian students and community and honoring the culture and heritage by having that as a PD day for staff. So those are just some of the highlights and that I want to point out. Questions?
Member Lafleur-Kemp?
Just because I can't do the math fast enough, but can you just confirm then with this new calendar, how many days our students will be in class? Okay, okay.
169.
169? Okay.
169. So, and again, and thank you for that because I don't have that written down here now, but it will be 169. And just know that we, as a result of this, the professional development days are being, we're able to provide those because the new schedules will have just a few minutes added that then will allow for the professional development days to occur. So that's how we were able to successfully get these additional days embedded in the calendar. So again, a lot of new information that will be provided and sent out to our families. We're really excited that this is moving forward and with the contracts, and we are ready to communicate this out to our families because they are waiting to hear about the calendar for next year. And so we're going to get this out as soon as possible as well.
Seeing no other lights on for the items, we're looking then for a motion. Do we need to vote on each one? Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the modified 2023-24. And is there a second? So it is Member Lafleur-Kemp with the motion and Member Eder with the second on the approval of the modified 2023-24 school year calendar. Are there any, so we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of this motion to approve the 23-24 calendar, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. That moves us to 11E. I'm looking for a motion to approve the 24-25 school year calendar.
So
I'm looking
moved.
for a motion. Thank you, Member Banks. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Member Williams is a second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor of the approval of the 2024-25 school year calendar, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. We're on number 12. It's questions on anything other. Good night. Seeing none, we're making a motion to adjourn so we can say goodbye. We have a motion by Zadowski, a second by Member Eder. All those in favor of adjournment say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We're adjourned.